I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
Nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
The Charlie Crawford Podcast is proud to partner with NRS. Don't forget to shop this destination for all things Western. NRS has everything you need from boots, hats, apparel, bits and spurs, saddles, ropes, feed, and more. Visit their flagship store in Decatur, Texas, as well as other locations in Granbury, Texas, and Wickenburg, Arizona. From your hat to your boots and everything in between, shop NRS in-store or online at nrsworld.com. Hello, everyone. Today we got Jacobs Crawley, 2015 world champion saddle bronc rider in the PRCA. He's made 10 consecutive NFRs before getting hurt at Greeley, and he's back riding again. So, Jacobs, man, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, bro. Happy to be here.
Man, it's pretty cool where our kids go to school together and they're in the same class. And Creed's been talking about how him and Cordy are going to grow up and be storm chasers.
Oh, yeah.
And,
that doesn't surprise me.
And right now is not a bad time.
Oh, my goodness.
There's been plenty of.
I know. Like, every time that the lightning will crack, Cordy will run in and be like, Dad, let me see your phone. I guarantee you there's about to be a tornado. I was like, Bubba, it's not going to be a tornado. But if there is, I will then give you my phone and you can video the tornado. So
everyone asks if my kid's going to be a team roper when he grows up. I'm like, man, it feels like he's more apt to probably get on a rocket ship and fly to Mars with Elon Musk than probably be a team roper. He loves that stuff.
Yeah, dude, it's
a funny stage.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and that's, between storm chasing, or one day we want to be a baseball player, and next day we're going to try to be a bronc rider like you. I mean, it's what it is. But
how's baseball been going? Have you been coaching? Or
man, so
just helping
I've
him out
coached every year he's played it since he was like 4. I've done the coaching, and he does not like Dad being the coach. He's one of those, like, he wants to do it on his own. He wants the official coach. And so I hang out in the outfield. I'm like as I've told him, Bubba, I have to help. They need help. So I'm the assistant coach, if you will. And yeah, he loves it. He loves it. So I don't coach him in particular. I let the official coaches coach him. And I'm
play baseball?
No, my brother-in-law did in college. I didn't know there was something other than rodeo till I was like in junior high. You know what I mean? Like, that was just the only sport we did. That's a lie. I loved football growing up because I was from Texas. But whenever I was 14 and realized this was going to be my size, I kind of let football fade out and just focused on rodeo. But
because Cordy's got some size,
he's big.
Looks like he might go down the route of football.
Yeah, he might go down that route or bulldogging. I've told him, I was like, dude, I'm telling you, if you just keep growing the way you're growing, you got some athleticism coupled with some size, dude, you're gonna be a bulldogger, because I don't want to put you on broncs if I ain't got to, type deal.
So one of the things that I always ask too is, like, I get asked all the time, like, do you push the kids to rope or this and that? And I'm like, man, I push them to do whatever they love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Journey, my daughter, she's gonna want to try to probably break all of Jackie's records. Like, she loves it. Creed just his mind kind of goes in different places. Like, I'll have him rope. Like, he's gonna rope. I'll make him rope a little bit. If he ever enters, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But at least that way, he's kind of in the arena with the rest of us, and we're kind of able to do stuff with his family. But
yeah.
What do you kind of feel on that?
Well, I think that in order to be successful, they've got to want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't, for me at least, you know what I mean? It has to be the thing to where they have the inner drive to do that if they're going to be successful, especially in a roping event. You know what I mean? Because I think that's why I wasn't as successful roping, because I grew up roping calves and riding bulls and stuff like that, but I didn't eat, sleep, and breathe, the roping events like some of these kids do nowadays. And so I think that whatever they're willing to put their time into individually without, being forced into that realm, I think that's what they're going to see success in. And so right now for us, it's definitely baseball. You know what I mean? But then in the fall, it'll be football. So it's one of those that whatever sport we're doing is it's our favorite one, and that's what we want to work on. And so we're one of those, expose them to everything, and then whenever they get around 11 or 12 and you start seeing everything kind of take shape, it's like, hey, we're going to focus in on this. And then by the time they hit the high school ages, you can narrow it down a little bit if they want. And then if they want to, hey, I'm willing to do all of them and put forth the effort in all of them. Can I do it? It's like, yeah, absolutely. But know that, you probably should try to focus, once you get towards the later years of high school, I feel like, if you're going to take it to the next level.
That makes sense. That's kind of what we're trying to do a little bit, is to expose them to all of it. Let's see what you like, see what you're good at, see what you like. And then once we figure that out, all right, now let's go all in.
And see, and I think,
I think put some effort in it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. It's like, see what you're good at. I think that I may have done more sports if I was better at some of them, but I was always a little bitty guy. You know what I mean? So I was always on that side of things, but I was really competitive in rodeo and stuff like that. So I was just drawn to it more, and I just poured it. That's how I became a bronc rider, because I was roping and riding bulls and stuff like that. And then I just tried bronc riding for all around points at the high school rodeos. And then after getting on bucking horses, I was like, oh man, I can sell that calf horse and put this bull rope in the closet type thing. Awesome. And so.
Now, what about singing? Because I didn't realize how good you could jam till church day. And I was like, man, that's impressive. So did you guys grow up singing quite a bit, playing guitars, around?
So we grew up singing, hilariously enough, we grew up singing like national anthems at rodeos and stuff like that. But this is like 8, 9 years old type deal. Mm-hmm. We would, sing karaoke George Strait at awards ceremonies when you're like 9 or 10 years old, because your mom, I don't understand, my mom was pushing me to do this, but what it is. But then there was like, that was it. We didn't sing past 9 years old. And then when I was in high school, I had a buddy that played guitar and sing. Well, he's still my traveling partner, Dean Wadsworth. Dean would play and we would sing just sitting around, after a high school rodeo type deal. And, but I'd only get to sing and stuff when Dean was there. And I was like, man, I need to learn how to play guitar so I can play and sing by myself instead of having to see Dean. And I had a buddy, he still plays music now, Red Shahan. Red Russell lived in Bluffdale. We had a mutual friend, Corey the Thrill Hill. He rode bulls and rode calves and stuff. And so they would come over to our house, senior year of high school. And Russell just wrote down on a legal pad like 4 chords. He said, learn these chords. And, that was the coaching. And so I'm sure you could have found it on the internet and stuff like that back then, but he kind of gave me those 4 chords. And then back then you could find like chords of all the, what would be Texas country of the days. And so you can literally with like 4 chords play 100 Texas country songs. Okay. You know what I mean? So did that through college. And then, when I got back injury, we were going to church and we were around there, and then they were, I can't remember, needing maybe 1 or 2 people if they wanted to get involved on the worship team, kind of as a backup type deal if somebody was sick or somebody couldn't make it, and asked if I'd want to play around with them. And it was really cool. It exposed me more so to worship music, and definitely changed my life in that realm. And so I love it. And so now I play it all the time. I play like that's, my kids will sing it because I'm be singing in the office, you know what I mean? And they'll hear it. And so it's been very positive. Even if I don't play anymore, you know what I mean? Like it's just, it's really cool what it did through the injury and everything like that.
It seems like too, is that being involved in the church and having a role in the church, it's kind of a leadership role that a guy will take. And he seems like it would keep a guy more engaged in the church as well. And man, what Ryan's done over there at that Lincolnville church has been so impressive.
Yeah, no, it has been, it's really special. Like I said, I know personally what it's done for our little family and things like that. And I like being in the role as, but at the same time, like I'll be parking cars or shaking hands at the front door as part of the greeting crew. And so it's just wherever they need you. And we became more involved after the injury. And that's why I think it was such a blessing, because it kind of made me reset and start everything over, and kind of open the door into what it looks like in this next little brief chapter, and so.
Well, and I think too, is a leadership role of the family, is what you're showing your kids, to be involved in the church, and, just the example you're setting for your kids, and being that guy in church that's serving, and leading by example.
And that's really, I don't know, for my way of thinking, that's the only way I know how to do just about anything. It's just go and do it, and then just set the example first. Yeah. Because, I don't know of any, I'm sure there's ways that smarter people have figured out how to lead without that aspect of it. But for me, it's just like, just go and do it, set the example. And that goes for, my kids, my family, be it a young bronc rider, be it anybody, just, I don't care, a young kid that's in school, you know what I mean? Just that you can serve your church, and you can, be happy, serve the Lord, have your family together, you know what I mean? And then also go out and try and ride bucking horses. You know what I mean? Like, you can be both of those things. Yeah. Like you can lead this way in this, servitude type deal, but then at the same time go out and pick a fight with a bucking horse. Like, it's, I love it. I love both aspects of it. I love the calm side of things, but then I absolutely love
the adrenaline.
Oh my goodness. So, yeah.
So for me, I'd enjoy getting to pick your brain a little bit, just because this is fun for me to go down the other side of the arena a little bit. When I was ERA rodeo, and I was telling you earlier, we were kind of all a family, like all of us, we were all going to the same rodeos. We're all trying to do the same thing. And, I got to be good buddies with the bronc riders and the bareback riders. And it was just so much fun because of the energy. You guys just keep so much energy, and everything's so much fun. And, there's much more cowboy shit in our sport than riding broncs. That's basically how it originated, in my opinion, being able to see who can ride the horse. And what is it that, if they're a cowboy they can always ride, then what is it? I forgot that saying, the bucking horse.
I know what you're saying, but I'm not going to step in. I want you to figure it out.
I forgot what it was.
Yeah, but I know. Yeah.
I love, but it was, but like I say, that was cowboy stuff back then. That was, I loved that stuff. And I always thought it'd be kind of funny or for me, interesting to see, like, for team ropers, during the week when we're home, like, it's practice. You're getting the practice pen, trying to get your, horses scoring, trying to get probably horses to the vet, probably getting rigs fixed, and that's kind of, you might pull in a lesson here and there if you're, trying to make some extra money, but for the most part, you're just staying hooked. And like, for here, golly, we'll have 2 or 3 jackpots around here during the week, before you can go on the weekends and stuff like that. There's so many things to do, but like, for a bronc rider, for you right now where you're at, what does your week look like in between rodeos?
Yeah. And I think that's why I love bronc riding so much, is because it is a little bit different environment than that. You know what I mean? So you may ride a few saddle horses during the week, but it's just to kind of keep moving around. You know what I mean? And if you're getting on 3 bucking horses, let's say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're going to rodeos, that's really all the practice you need, unless you're working on something. If you've got new equipment, or if you're struggling or something like that, get on them, because I love practice. Whenever I'm not getting on 3 already that week, You know what I mean? But that's really it, especially like in the summer when guys are rodeoing full time. You're kind of giving your body just a little bit of a break and staying loose and ready for the next one.
Probably working out.
Yeah. You know
you
what
guys
I mean?
got some stuff because we was talking the other day about some stuff you also do on the side, like real estate and things like that, where, you guys are able to also have some outside things going on because there's enough downtime where you're letting your body rest, correct?
Right. And I would say that's probably, depends on if you ask me or my wife, if that's a good or bad thing, like how I have to be doing multiple things at one time. So be it through I was rodeoing full time and a college student at A&M, or with the real estate or whatever it may have been, getting involved and things like that. Just, I've always had to have a few irons in the fire.
Well, that seems like a good mix too in this area as well.
Oh, sure.
Because there's so many people wanting to come to Stephenville, kind of be in the real estate game here in Stephenville, be in the hot spot and being able to be productive on those during those off times.
It's just, for me, it was always tough to put all my eggs in one basket type thing, to where I kind of like to I just kind of do something, you know what I mean? Like with that Monday through Thursday, if I wasn't getting on a bucking horse, I needed to be doing something. And so that's what took me towards the real estate and the rentals and things like that. And so, it's been great.
What's the interest rates been going? What's the sales been looking like? Because it seems like in the real estate, like just from the outside looking in, it seems like it's really hard for like the fact that the housing market's a little bit offset feels like just the outside looking in, you know, where a lot of guys are locked in on a 3% interest rate, you know, and if you guys was to sell, then you'd have to go to, you know, probably between 7 and 8. I don't know where the interest rates are now.
I think they're pretty close. So
it's kind of creating a demand, you know, where there's not as many houses maybe available, and then now everything's pretty high, correct? So it's kind of a tough. Has it been tough in the real estate, or is here the fact that everyone's wanting to come here? It's not so bad.
I think that's such a big question, though. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so many different parts of it. You know what I mean? Be it through what type of property is slower moving right now than others. And
that
so
makes sense.
Certainly don't want to speak to stuff that I'm not 100% in, because that is not what I do, you know, every day. But I will say it seems like the right property always moves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if it's one of those deals, let's say it's a land deal. If it's the right deal, it's moving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Seems like land here, barn and arena is going.
Oh man, it's going to move, and your rentals move. You know, for the most part.
Yeah, college town.
Because they're always going to, you know, that little those couple of those niche areas to where they're a little bit of their own. It seems like they're always active. Yeah. You know, and so I think I think, but everything that you said, I agreed with. People that are locked in at the lower rates make it really tough to, you know, make a change right now, you know, with their primary type deal, especially if they're jumping from a primary to a new primary, and they're changing out that rate for, you know, 4% higher. You know, it's hard. So it's I don't know. Like I said, I know just enough to get me in trouble, that expression. So I stick to the little bit that I know. It's not that I'm not curious and I love learning more, but I kind of play in that lane that I've played in, and that works for me.
Well, I'd love to go down a little bit of your history, kind of where you got started, but what is it? A bucking horse that couldn't be rode and a cowboy that couldn't be throwed?
That's it. I think that's it. There you go.
Took me a second. I was winging it for the second. I needed a second to get it.
You didn't Google that on your phone either.
Nope.
So
it just
I
came
can
back.
confirm.
So how did you get started? Where did you grow up at?
So we grew up in Ennis, south of Dallas there. And my cousin is Cheyenne Wimberly. So Shy grew up, she's about 10 years older than me. But her mom and dad kind of raised my dad a little bit, because their dad passed whenever he was 18. So my uncle stepped in, kind of raised my dad, got him into team roping. And so my dad played around team roping. But whenever we came along, he saw Shy had success. She had won the college final or something, made the NFR. I remember going to the finals with her in the 90s and watching her run. And so we were just all about youth rodeo. And that was it. Like, we weren't raised out on some ranch. We were from Ennis. You know, we might have had 7 or 8 acres. It was enough to have a calf lane, you know, a pasture to ride in, house and a barn. That was it. And
so your brother,
3 years younger.
And then is it just two of you?
Just us two.
Just you two.
Yeah. And we hauled now. It just blows my mind how our mom and dad took us across the state and country at like 6 and 9 years old. You know what I mean? It's just like, it just blows my mind. But I just chalk it up to like it was the 90s and they must have just made it work. Because my dad was an engineer, still is an engineer. And he'd have an hour and a half drive to work. He'd get home, we'd rope, everything would be saddled, ready to go, whatever it was. And we'd do that till dark. And this dude would get up at 5 o'clock and go to work again. You know, he had his own, he was partners with a company up there in Mesquite. But yeah, it's crazy. But that's what got us started. And so we were just how they coined the term, the rodeo athlete type thing nowadays, you know, more so than cowboy. We were that, you know, wanted to rope, ride bulls. That was it. And
what became the interest in the bronc riding? What was
it was just the next event.
Started it.
It was just the next event that I wanted to try. And so, you know, kind of like that same thought process with raising your own kids is expose them to everything. So at 14, I got on my first bucking horse, and I'd always loved riding horses, and I loved riding bulls. And so it was just kind of a merge of the two. And it had the same, preparation and things like that of the bull riding, but it was more of a horse. You know what I mean? I wasn't getting hung up. I wasn't getting yanked down. I had far less concussions, even though I broke a bunch more bones. So it was just the perfect blend. And then once you start getting into it, then there's the nostalgia of the bronc riding and how it played into the sport of rodeo. And there's all the feels in that department. And
Well, I'd love to hear your history of bronc riding,
yeah,
especially from a bronc rider.
Yeah. Now, when you say my history is
Well, like, say the history of the bronc riding, like for a lot of people that are wondering, like, how bronc riding got started. I mean, if you
Sure.
think about it, I could talk about it, but I'd love to hear the perspective of a bronc rider.
well, so you need to get a better bronc rider than me to give the history of bronc riding, because mine is just the riding horses. Like it really starts there. Like there's and I experienced this whenever I was injured and I was never going to get on broncs again type deal for a year and a half, when I couldn't ride a horse for 5 months or 4 months, because I rode it like on the day of 4 months. I went to the doctor and they told me at 4, I was supposed to take 6 months to heal. 4 months I'd healed, and they said, hey, you're ahead of schedule. Like you're good to go. Start getting back in the gym, start building muscle, blah, blah, blah. And I went home that day and just got on a horse just to feel it. And so for a guy that's not some super handy horse guy, because I mean, we live in the land of those around this part of the world. It's just loving getting on a horse. It's just really, and so whenever you've got that bucking horse, and then also maybe it's being a man to where you have some like aggression that you want to let out, like getting on that stout bucking horse that wants to throw you off and you want to hang it in him. That's what it's about. And then so that's really what it's always been for me. It's just the challenge.
And I always thought too, like the good grasp for a lot of people to understand kind of like how it got started, in my opinion, was the movie The Cowboys. Back in the day, the Cowboys, when they would get horses in, you would just basically rope them, put them around a snubbing post, put a saddle on him, blindfold him, sneak on there, and then, then you'd ride it out of them.
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, is like where it kind of got started, was just like getting them broke. Well, you learned how to ride them by just getting on them, and you got throwed, you got back on. And
I think there's like a biological, like ingrained into man, you know what I mean? As far as that, a kind of a conquering type mentality, you know what I'm saying? And when you're a man, it's in you to want to, subdue type thing, and so,
so when you got started riding broncs, how did you get started? Just like we're talking about, just get on?
Just get on. So I went to Sankey School. I was 14.
You went to school.
Yeah. And I got on about 6 head, and I was like, phew, you are not ready for this. So I broke a wrist.
Did they start like with some, like just kind of barely buck a little bit?
Yeah, barely buck, but man, it's hard. There's no half speed in bronc riding, really. That's what makes it so tough.
Is there anything that you can do where you kind of somewhat get timing before you start, like a technique or anything?
I mean, there's a spur board. So we have what we call a spur board. It's kind of like roping the dummy is for the roper. And it's just to build muscle memory within that. But there's just no substitute for live bucking horses. And there's really no way to ease into that necessarily, because, man, once you put your feet in the stirrups, it's live action. And unfortunately, what usually hits the ground first is your head and your wrists and things like that. Yeah. And so I got on at 14. I got on about 6 head. And then we're like, you need to get a little bit bigger and stronger before you do this again. And so when I was 15, Tom Reeves had just moved here to Stephenville. And there was a kid talking. He was just big talking because he never ended up getting on horses. But I'm going to Tom Reeves Bronc School. But I heard him in the hallway. I was like, really? Tom's having a school. So I called my buddy out in West Texas and I said, hey, I know you were wanting to go to bronc riding school. Let's go. And so Tom had a deal with Stay Smith over there in Malakoff, to where they'd go in Thanksgiving and just go through a bunch of young stuff. And so like we probably got on 20 horses in 2 days. And 20 horses a piece. Like you were getting bucked off, 2 seconds, get your saddle, get bucked off again, give it get going again. And we don't know none of these horses. Tom's telling us what their mom's second cousin horses do. And and me in good spirits about it. You know what I mean? But
Just over your head.
well, yeah, and they're just telling you the rain and whatnot, and we're guessing, and but it was a great experience, and so yeah, so that's how I got started. And Tom looked at my saddle and said, "You're riding a piece of junk. You need to get a new saddle," and then I did, and then whenever I got that new saddle, and 3 months later, I was like, "Oh my goodness." He was completely right. I was riding a piece of junk. But we didn't know. We're from Texas. My dad was a part-time team roper, engineer from A&M. Like, he's not a rodeo guy. And so what he bought was a Saddle Bronc Rider starter kit. It came with a saddle, a halter, a rein. You know what I mean? Like, it was what he thought I needed.
That's all we knew.
Yeah. And so, but he also knew I needed some schools in there too. So he had the heads up to where you need to get in front of the right people to help you with it. So that's one thing about my parents. They were as supportive as could be for us, you know what I mean? And everything within our rodeo. And it helped us.
So did your brother, he just kind of follow you?
Yeah, pretty much. So my folks split whenever I was 18. He was 15. He was riding bulls. And, but by 18, I'd figured out, and we had a little bit of, we had a little bit of money, but we weren't like, we didn't have a whole lot. So it was one of those things like Sterling needed to make some money. And about 18, 19, I figured out, hey, we can make a little bit of money doing this. Like, this is one of the events that, for us at least, what I'm saying, there's not a whole lot of overhead, in that buck and saddle. And so it's like, why don't you focus in on this? And so, I paid his entry fees. And at the first few amateur rodeos, just because I knew it was like he's had a lot of heart. And then he just started making money at 16 years old and
Riding broncs?
Yep, riding saddle bronc horses and never slowed down.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Then did that get you guys going to college? Were you guys able to go to college riding broncs?
Yeah, absolutely. That was so I went to college to be an engineer. That's what I wanted to be. I didn't think rodeo would pan out necessarily. Sterling went to college to be a rodeo guy. He went to Hillsboro. He was a running rebel, and then went to Sam. But by that time, he had had a lot of success. And so he kind of saw the writing on the wall that this is going to pan out. But anyway, so yeah, I went to school to be an engineer. And then about my junior year, I think I ended that year, 20-something type deal in the standings. And I was like, this is going to be okay. Like, I don't know what it's going to turn into, but I know that for the next few years after graduation, I'm about to go all in on this deal.
Thank you.
And then the next year I made the finals. So,
ropers, are you ready to step up your game? My online course, The Basics of Roping, is built for beginners, but packed with tools to help ropers of all levels sharpen their skills. With over 2 hours of instruction, frame-by-frame swing breakdowns, when to turn your hand over to keep your loop open, when and where to let go of your rope so you can get the horns in the middle of that loop, over 15 dummy drills to simulate real-life runs, you'll have everything you need to improve. Go to charlycrawford.training and follow the link under the course tab to get started today. So when you started getting going about college, going to college, you had your card, was you kind of rodeoing on and off a little bit, kind of getting your feet wet, or did you start like, I'm going to try to make the finals when you're in college?
Well, I could have thought that, but if you're honest with yourself, you quickly realize when you need to not, you're not ready. Because I did. I jumped out. I bought my permit at 18. I was at the high school finals when I turned 18, and I bought my card in Abilene over the phone. I can remember it. And my first pro rodeo was Belton over the 4th. And I won Belton. It was like 85, won a buckle. It said PRCA on it. So I was like, high school kid getting ready for the high school nationals, and now I've got a PRCA buckle. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I also thought, I'm about to light the world on fire. I quickly realized that the competition's a little bit different in Belton over the 4th than it is everywhere else over the 4th. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I do.
Everybody's out rodeoing.
That's kind of almost like when you go to high school football, the college football.
Yeah.
When they talk about when you go to the pros, everything's bigger, stronger, faster.
100%.
Yeah.
It was, but so anyways, Belton was great. I loved Belton.
Good confidence booster though.
Oh man, it was so cool. And so, but I bought my card at 18 and I was ready to go strike it type deal. And then I worked a little bit for my dad over Christmas break to make a little bit of money for the winter rodeos, and quickly lost all that money that I had made going to the winter rodeos because Denver, Odessa, and those joints, like they're they're not giving that stuff away. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be on your game. You got to draw the right animal. They're still like that. It don't matter if you've been 10 NFRs or.
So how hard was it, like your rookie year, where you're just going to a few of them to kind of get qualified for Denver and some of them winter rodeos, because they don't take very many, right?
No, I was able to make it to San Antonio. That was one of the cooler things that came from my rookie year, was getting qualifications up to make it to San Antonio, because they had just kind of cut back their guys that year. And but that's really about all it was. You know, I think I ended up third for the rookie deal. Jesse Cruz won it, and up until the fourth, I had kind of been 1 or 2 for the rookie deal, and then I had a decent fourth or whatever, and then I checked the standings, second week of July or whatever, and then this guy from Montana won like 20 grand over the fourth, and I was like, who is this guy? Well, turns out it was Jesse Cruz, and he graduated, like he had done it how a lot of guys do it, which is strategically planned when they were going to be a rookie. I had no plan. I just wanted to go rodeo. I didn't have any direction. And I wouldn't change anything, because through that, you learn a lot. Yeah. Like when you are the end all be all of your career or your area of expertise that you're working in, you learn a lot, because, the buck stops with you. So buck stopped with me. So we dug into it. And
who was some of your traveling partners? Like, did you have some experience, or just kind of some other guys like you, and you're just figuring it out yourself?
Just same guys that I rodeoed with in high school, same guys I rodeo with.
So you guys are just having a blast, man.
Yes.
You're going to places you never thought we would have been. There's no plan.
Nobody has a plan. Nobody's ever been there. Nobody's ever been there. We're all in this together, though. There's such a
cluster F is the first thing I can think of.
Never. No. I would say just euphoric of no responsibility, so much freedom, bro. Yeah. Like it is what, I mean, I can remember our first summer that we rodeoed. Like I said, I was still at A&M. Sterling was his rookie year. He was 19, and I think I was 22, and we were just gonna go, and that's exactly what we did. I mean, I've got a phone. I can see how far one rodeo is to the next, and so I knew a little bit, because I'd gone to a few rodeos, but we kind of just were winging it and basing it off of added money and, logistics of getting there, and had so much fun. And that's why, like, I talk to the guys, younger guys that are in that stage now, that are early 20s, and there's nothing wrong with having some experience in the rig. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. That's an asset. Absolutely. Sure. They can tell you this, that, and the other. I was like, but also don't be afraid of figuring it out on your own. Like, just grip it and rip it. Like, what are we doing? Like, you ride bucking horses. So have fun with it. Don't overthink it. I think it's one of the more, it was a special time of no responsibility, and you're learning so much about everything.
Where all the states are at.
Oh my gosh, everything. Places are at. Yeah, exactly. And it's so much fun. And you're meeting new people, and so if you approach the game and approach all of that with a positive attitude, you know what I mean? Like, you're showing up there to, maybe meet somebody, for the first time, and shake somebody's hand, type deal, and then go get on a bucking horse and have fun and all this kind of stuff. And it's a good deal.
When did you start getting the feel of, like, when you started, like, the winning? Like, for me, I remembered, high school, it was the exact same thing you talked about. I remember when I was my permit year, I won Hillsboro, pro rodeo, not very far from where I was from. Mm-hmm. A lot of the guys, a couple of the guys were there, but not a lot of the big guys were up there quite yet, because most of them were still kind of out. But it was that big win. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was like, man, I think I got this. Mm-hmm. And then you get your card and you're like, whoa. Mm-hmm. Whoa. Yeah, it's bigger, stronger, faster. These guys all got a couple horses. Like, they know what the boxes are. They know what the setups are like. Like, I'm so far, from anything. But for me, like, I started kind of being able to hang around some of the guys a little bit, because I could shoe. Mm-hmm. Could ride horses pretty good. So, like, I was kind of an asset when I was going to somebody's place that had a bunch of horses and things like that. I'd kind of help out. Well, then I started kind of learning that way. But heck, it took me 10 years. But it was one of them to where once they kind of taught me how to win a little bit, then I kind of was able to back it back down. Okay, let's not try the NFR. Let's at least go win the amateur deal. Let's at least kind of go, okay, can I go at this level right here and dominate? And then learn how to win, and then still keep going the circuit rodeos, still keep going the bigger rodeos, and kind of piece it up. And then it was just kind of one of them things where all of a sudden the horses that I had, the partner that I had, and then everything one day just, man, I started winning consistently. Like I started getting that feel of where you're hitting that start, you're ready for the run. When you get there, you're able to get the steer handled. Your horses were better. So for me, I remember that time when all of a sudden it just clicked. Like when did it start clicking for you? Like, now you're making the NFR.
So yeah, for now making the NFR, it would have been my junior year at A&M. It would have been whenever I went to rodeos that weren't in the state, you know what I mean? And I was going up to Kalispell and Canby's and the Northwest Dills and, you know, everything over the Fourth, and just being exposed to all of it and having some success. And so, but those were it. Like I won Kalispell on an NFR TV pin horse, Starburst of Kessler's, and, you know, wins like that when you're 21, 22 years old, like they give you that confidence. And I would watch the NFR that year, and I remember watching the bronc riding and thinking, man, I'm not far from that. You know what I mean? Like you'll see a guy, and it sounds whatever, but maybe struggle a little bit, and you're just like, I think I could have rode that horse a little bit better than that. I was like, if I just work at this a little bit harder. And so then the next year was the year I made the finals. But
who did you kind of look up to? Who did you study? Who was like the guy that you're like, man, if I get my feet move like that or style like that, or was it just all of them?
I think so. And I've said it, and like I said, maybe it is what it is, but I think you have to find your own thing. You know what I mean? Like there's certain techniques or, you know, deals that you may do that are more like one guy or the next, but at the same time, you've got to find what works for you. You know, whatever helps you lift, whatever helps you set your feet. I always liked the demeanor of whenever I was that age, because he had won the NFR average that year. The year before I went was JJ Elshier. So JJ always handled his rein good. He set his feet. He was super humble. Like that was just the guy that I was like he kind of had that blue collar, hard work mentality approach. You know what I mean? I was like, man, I really like that. Like that resonated with me, because like I could see myself being a guy, and you just rode 10 or however many you rode that year. I was like, I could see being a guy that I run more off effort than I do off talent type thing. And so I've just always had to come back to that. And it's just try and outwork and try freaking hard. You know what I mean? And so JJ was that, because I didn't have some of the, there's some dudes that they just have God-given ability, like with their toes and their flexibility of their joints, I'm assuming, and lets them do certain things. And it's just like, man, I could try every day to get my foot to roll out like that. And I just don't think it could roll out. I can't do it. I can't do it standing here, let alone on the back of a bucking horse. So there's certain things that you're just not going to be, and there's certain frames, you know what I mean? I'm not going to be the same build as another guy. You know, I'm 5'7", 155. You know, this is what I'm working with, top deal. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to have these long legs. You're not going to be some slender, you know, real skinny guy. Like, this is what it is. So you kind of just got to find what works for you, and then really lean into it.
What knowledge and feel and tips were you getting? Because when you're talking about reins, you know, you're talking about certain rein length, you know, and I'm sure that a lot of that is adjusted by what you have, kind of where they keep their heads. Does that sound about right? And how they buck? That's kind of how you're measuring your rein?
Right. It's all based off of that. And then
because that's what you guys study, is those horses, right?
Right. But study might be a strong word, because you just need to know, hey, is this head low or high?
Got it.
And you also need to know yourself to where you're, hey, I can handle my rein, or hey, I may benefit from having a shorter rein because this helps me stay down in the saddle. And so it's really different. And I think whenever a guy's kind of hitting his, you know, potential, it's whenever he understands himself and the horse. And so you can watch a horse 1 trip, 2 trips, you know, and it's like, okay, this is what he had with his head. This is what I'm going to go for rein. Well, so-and-so did this. Like, that doesn't matter. This is what I'm going to go for rein, because I know what works for me.
Yep.
And so we've got an expression, you know, you got to dance with the girl that brought you there. You know, we're going to get in trouble saying all these expressions, because we might be off a word or two. But
well, it's kind of early in the morning. It's early in the morning for me, because I got home at 3:30. I couldn't even remember the bronc riding saying.
That ain't no lie. But The early part, not the forgetting to say it. But no, I think it's just that. I think it's just, you got to know what works for you.
Yeah.
It's like anything. And I think that's whenever I realized, you talked about the winning and the making the NFR. That's whenever I realized that you might could make some money riding bucking horses, is whenever I figured the blend of open rodeos and pro rodeos whenever I was in college, to where I was making money, keeping money in the bank account, and really having a lot of fun. And then that just shifted into a focus of all pro. I was making the circuit finals and I'd make the open amateur finals. And so then that just shifted to making the circuit finals and trying to make the NFR, then making the NFR and circuit finals. And then just dug into that.
Yeah. What was that first NFR like for you? Like, because I remember for me, man, I think I was 27 or 28. So I'd never actually seen it, like, been down there. And I remember, like, when I walked in the back of the box, like, and they pulled the curtain out, because you're sitting in the back of an alley and it's somewhat dark. It's not real dark, but I mean, it's a little bit darker than like what we're in a normal room. But then when they pull that curtain back, you're like,
yeah.
And the freaking pyro smoke still right over the top, from the grand entry, man. And I just remember walking in there, I was like, it was hard not to look up. It was so cool. But like for you guys, like, what is it like back there?
I think that's one of the blessings about rough stock, is that, and that's just in more areas too, is that you focus on the animal that you're about to get on. Because if you start thinking about anything else, you're going to get yourself hurt. You know what I mean? It's one of those deals to where it's like, were you nervous? It's like, you're nervous every time you get on bucking horses. Like, it don't matter. You know what I mean? Like this, there's not like a casual bucking horse. If you're getting on a real bucking horse, like if you're getting on a dink at the practice pen, it's like, yeah, you may be chill, making jokes and stuff like that. Right. But if you're climbing on something that's going to try you, you're going to do your best. You better not be playing around. Like it's time to go. And, I drew some Kessler horse that I'd never seen. And I mean, I just was trying not to black out. Like, I just didn't want to like open my hand and just lose my rein first jump. And so he went out a few jumps, circled around to the left, kind of quit kicking. I had heck. He wasn't all that great. And I think I was like 65. And you'd have thought I was 85, 95 type deal. I was so fired up. Like, it did not matter because I survived the first one. And it was awesome. I pulled a check on my second one. And then I had like 5 that I was just kind of hanging on. Like, it wasn't all that great for whatever reason. But anyways, then I won the 8th round. And until I won the average in 13 2 years later, like, it was the highlight. And it's still up there, like top 3 highlights, because it was off of iconic horse. They might have even put him in the Hall of Fame. It was Sundance at Flying Fives. This horse bucked till he was like 30. And he kind of had me picked up at the end, and I jump off right at the whistle. I never jump off because I always hang a stirrup and bounce my head off the ground. And so this one, though, it was not voluntary. Like, he was bucking me off as the whistle went. So it's kind of that last Hail Mary throw. And anyways, check out, land on my feet. Everybody's yelling. I'm yelling. Like, it was so gnarly. Man. Yeah, it was so great. And so it's really fun that maybe not to that level, but like even nowadays, like, you can step off a bucking horse at just a solid little circuit rodeo and still have that shot of adrenaline in the neck. You know what I mean? And it's such a blessing. I'm so grateful to get to do it again, because I just, I just told myself, and the doctors had told me that you're done. You know what I mean? And, so it was, it's been a lot of fun these last few months.
So like traveling though, back and, up and down the road back then, like from what I heard, you were one of the few guys. Did you guys rodeoed out of an ambulance, correct?
Yeah.
How did you find an ambulance? What made you pick an ambulance?
So we had a great hauling partner. He builds custom homes now down in Huntsville, turnkey construction. But he back then was building rodeo rigs. And by that, I mean just ours. But he flew to New Jersey because they retire ambulances sooner up there with less mileage, because it's mostly urban. So they flew up there, him and Sterling, and drove the ambulance back from New Jersey. And it had the sirens, it had the PA type deal. And
that
so
sounds like could you imagine what you'd done that with your first year?
What's that?
Could you imagine what you'd done that with your first year going out there?
I mean, it was. Oh, I mean, yeah, we had it. That was our first rig.
Your first year, you had an ambulance.
Our first year of rodeo was in a because they were going to be rookies. Jeremy and Sterling were rookies at the same time. So Jeremy, in preparation for rookie year, had the ambulance. And so he went and got the ambulance. And we didn't drive it to Vegas out for the finals because by then it only took us one summer to really see just how unreliable that vehicle was.
I still can't believe your rookie year, though, that you took away the sirens where you didn't just like use them.
So the state required that. That wasn't like we didn't do that on our own. Like this is going to make the ambulance better. This is the state saying, would you like to still drive this vehicle? If so, these will need to come off the top if you're going to get this registered.
I don't know if you've seen one of the calf ropers a couple of years ago. He was running late to Houston because you know how bad the traffic can get in Houston.
Yeah, you ain't wrong.
And he unloaded his horse and rode in there to the perf.
I saw it. Who was that?
Yeah, I'm just going brain dead.
Because
right
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it on social media. Somebody posted that.
And I know
like
him
that.
as going blank right now, but I was like, man, I was just thinking about what a guy could do with an ambulance.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You could just go ahead and rock and roll.
You just better hope you don't pass another flash and blue. It's one of those things like it looks like an ambulance till you see another ambulance, and then you're like, these are not the same thing. One of these are wrong. And so it was a lot of fun. It had like everything was just like they just put it in a lot because it still had the seat belts, it still had the beds and all the stuff in the back. And so, but anyways, Jeremy had it gutted and did like a horse trailer conversion on the back end of it all. And, it was really cool. It was really cool. Our buddy, Joey Austin, who started Huey and Ruffy brands like that. He bought it from us after we got retired. Well, he bought it from Jeremy after we were done rodeoing out of it. And so now he's kind of converted it to, he'll go to like set up at an A&M football game and they'll play music outside of it and different things like that. And so it's kind of like, it's still on tour. So she still lives, but he would be another one to tell you just a pain in the butt that thing
Well,
is.
you're talking about unreliable. What are those things that kind of got unreliable
Oh
about
my
it when you're out
gosh.
there on the road?
Just all the things that you can imagine can go wrong in a vehicle. So not to mention it gets maybe 5 miles a gallon. So like going from Denver to the downhill, we would be on the shoulder getting passed and honked at as we're like trying so hard to get this gigantic box up the hill. And we can just watch the diesel just, but yeah, the brakes went out on it. The tire fell off of it. I mean, it, oh my gosh. It was a rough deal.
So when the brakes go out, was there a certain...
that was going to Spooner. You talked about Spooner the other day. It was coming back from Spooner, going back to Colorado. And it was me and my buddy Dean. And we had been having brake issues, but we were going to try and get it looked at once we got back to Colorado. And, but we were in Wisconsin, so that's not necessarily close. And so somewhere along the way, we're coming up into this intersection and Dean just starts yelling, the brakes are out. And he is stomping and he's, picking his foot up, stomping this brake, pop, pop, just trying to get it to grab. And there's just nothing. And this girl's big. So like once she gets going, it's not like she comes to a stop very quickly. And so we see this and last minute we just say, turn with the traffic. So as we come into that deal, he just yanks the wheel and we just make this 90-degree turn. This mug, she didn't like go up on, the side or anything like that, but like she certainly tipped a little bit. And then we just kind of faded with the traffic and got on the side of the road. Can't even remember what we did to get back on the road, but it was real weird. It was like sometimes the brakes would work, sometimes they wouldn't be that great. But we did make it to Colorado and got her fixed back up and then finished the summer out. But I think that was the summer. I think that was the last summer.
That was it.
Yeah, she only made it a few summers. And I think that was the last one because I think at that point she had worn out the welcome of I may or may not
Safety.
break down on you. Yeah. And so then it was tough.
So what's the rodeo rigs that's pretty popular in the bronc ride?
Different guys. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that still do the truck and camper.
See the Capri
life.
campers.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. I've always been, when I wasn't an ambulance man, I liked conversion vans, and then the next level up from that is the Sprinter. And so
like the conversion vans and like your ambulance, like were you guys able to put a shower in there?
The ambulance had one. but it turned into a glorified closet. So
like, would you guys just stay in rooms in most of the time?
Yeah, or you would take everything out to shower in it, or you would go to a truck stop.
Got it.
Or if there was a rodeo that had a nice shower, you might even hit up. There's a couple of those, not many, but a couple of them that have decent.
So for some of those rigs, you're hunting showers.
Yeah, without a doubt. Back then, I don't like when I take my family out. We have a truck and trailer, and it's typical living quarters horse trailer because, I mean, obviously, if you're rodeoing with wife and kids, you need a reliable shower.
Right.
So, no. The van days, that was more of those are bachelor rigs.
Gotcha.
You have to graduate at some point.
Gotcha. Graduate.
Yeah. We're to the other life now.
Yeah.
And grateful for it, but we are certainly to it. And so
in those 10 consecutive NFRs, what was some of the best memories? Like, what was some of the horses that you rode, traveling partners you had that was like, man, those are things like you'll never forget. Like there for a time, like when I was rodeoing, for me, one of the main things I remembered was like the first time I got to rope with, like, say, Mike Beers. That dude was legendary for where I came from. And then getting to rope with Alan Bach. And then one time I got to rope with Clay Cooper for a winter and stuff like that. And like to be able, for me as a team roper, it was like sometimes looking over there going, I remember watching this guy as I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like there's some of the things like I never forget, like the coolest moments. But like in the bronc riding, what are some of those moments that like you'll just never forget?
So I've only traveled with my brother. So I've never, and Dean, we've got like 3 or 4 buddies that we've been buddies with since high school, and that is who we'll travel with.
That's awesome.
And I think that's a big part of why we've never been burnt out about rodeoing or anything like that. Like, it's because we literally hang, and now I just rodeo with my family. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's tough to fight with your hauling partners when you're going to see them at Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff like that. So you get over it quick enough.
Yeah.
You can still do it, but you get over it. I think for me, it was just the seasons of life that I was in over those years. Because I can remember the first summer, and that was the summer of no responsibility and just everything's new. And then when my wife and I were dating, we would get to go some. And then there was the summer that we were married, and so she would come out with me quite a bit. I mean, since we've been together, she was out there quite a bit in the summer. Like I wouldn't be gone for more than a week without her coming back or me going there. And so it's just really that. And I think the main thing is just for me, it was just all the great rodeos. I loved waking up and drinking coffee in the Northwest in September or August when it's cool
mornings. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I loved it. I loved
good coffee drinking weather.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And you see so much funny stuff. I saw a man walking a cat one time on a leash in Washington. And
you see some stuff over there.
You see some really wild stuff in RV parks in Washington. Probably more now than ever. But this was like 5 years ago. And there was a man smoking a cigarette, walking a cat on a leash. And when he was doing his thing, drinking coffee, I was doing my
enjoying
thing.
his morning.
Yeah, I was reading PSN, and he was walking that cat, smoking that cig. So
Dean was telling me maybe about your rookie year, like finding some meat out on a cornfield or something like that.
Oh man, we were even younger than that. That was rookie year, 18. Yeah, not our first year of rodeoing, but that was just the same things that just dumb kids get into. Well, we were getting into a cornfield. We thought you could take corn out of a cornfield and cook it directly. We knew nothing of agriculture and food for that matter. So this is just 18 and dumb. This is before, it's before internet. You could just Google, can you eat this corn? So because
you're the reason everyone found out if you could or couldn't.
It would tell us.
You're the Google test, right?
AI would have told you do not eat that corn. But it took us trying to cook the corn and then eat the corn. And then later, Sterling and his buddies did the same thing. And so we have tested it. You can't do it. So but it was that kind of stuff. It was, filling up water bottle. We also had an Australian with us our first year. And so that made things even more interesting because he would just like fill up his water bottle out of the river in Estes Park. And it's like, Cody, that can't be sanitary, but he never got sick. So good on him. I mean, at one point in time, that is how it worked. I get it, but I remember that day.
I get it, but I ain't doing it.
I know, but I was like, Cody, we'll stop at a gas station, buddy. But anyways, he made things very interesting, and he kind of had, as reckless as we were with our first year rodeoing, he definitely raised the bar just because it was his first year too, and he was Aussie, and he's a good dude. Good dude.
So you made 10 consecutive NFRs, and then was you going for number 11? And is that when Greeley?
Yeah, so
Greeley happened.
I kind of backed off rodeoing full time whenever my wife was pregnant with our girl. There's a second one coming. So in 21, after the COVID NFR, that was my first year not to go. And then because I knew she was due the first week of December, and she actually came November 25th. So I knew I wasn't going to go out there that year. I was like, this is going to be, what's the point if I'm going to end up, what are we doing? And then the next year she was young, so I just had trouble being gone and being rodeoing. And then so in 23, we were going to try and make the finals, maybe one more time. And then, just a freak deal. Horse got me pinned and crunched and kind of come up and broke 2 vertebrae in my back, got 5 of them fused, 8 screws, 2 big rods. And they said, how close you were to paralysis, this, that, and the other, tore everything in your back. And
so what, like he just
he crunched back, which happens all the time, but then like his back feet went out, like they slipped out from underneath him. So usually when a horse hits you, like they still have weight on their back feet, whereas his back feet went, and then he was like balancing himself with the back of the chute, and he was pushing off. So like he was trying to get his feet underneath him, and he was using the back of the deal as leverage, you know what I mean? As to keep him up, and so like I was just in between the two. And so anyways, kind of got me in a gnarly little crunch. And anyways, I think it was literally one of the biggest blessings of my life. Like it was
so like when it happened, like were you down and out? Did you get up? Like,
man, I got up and got out of there,
because that's fair.
But it was barely, like it was, they had to pick me up because like my bottom half wasn't working all that well. Like I couldn't stand up straight. Like I could lean, if I got to a table and I could take the pressure off of my, whatever, hips, legs kind of thing, like it would feel okay. But I couldn't sit in a chair. I couldn't do anything because like it was just sharp, wanting to cry type deal.
Didn't you drive to the hospital?
No, I didn't drive. I rode in the back of the Sprinter van. It was one of the worst ideas I've ever had in my life, because my brother put me in the van. Well, first off, I was going to just get a walker and go home because they had done this X-ray on me there, and it's no fault of their own, whatever. Sometimes people got old X-ray machines, but make sure that you're getting looked at by the right people, type deal. And anyways, one lady told me, "Hey, I think you're fine." Well, then another guy come up. He's like, "Hey, I was looking at that deal over the back of her shoulder." He was from Denver. He was a doctor, and he was like, "I think you really ought to go get that looked at by somebody." He's like, "This is some older equipment. You're going to want somebody to really look at it." Well, then so then I told Sterling, I was like, "Hey, this is something's up. We need to go check this deal out." And he's like, "Well, you want to just take the van?" I was like, "Yeah, let's just see if we can take the van." And so I don't know. It was about 110 degrees in the back of that van. I was like laid over sideways, like trying not to throw up. I was hurting so bad. And we got to the ER, and it had took somebody to help us get me in the van. Well, then we got to the ER parking lot, and there was nobody out there really. So I was like hanging on Sterling as we get in there. And then they were kind of nonchalant until they ran the deals. And then once they saw everything, they were,
ASAP.
Yeah, let's get to going. And so it was good. It was, I just soon not do it again.
Yeah.
But it was,
because your chances of a lot of things were pretty low.
Yeah, it was pretty tough until they got everything stable, but that's life, man. There's narrow windows all the time. You know what I mean? So that was just one.
How long did it take to kind of get back and going, and what was rehab like?
Yeah. So, just thank God for being in the physical shape that I was beforehand, because they said that's what really helped me from getting hurt worse. And I think that's also what helped me get better faster, type deal. And so there wasn't much rehab. I was just walking around for about 3 or 4 months. I'd walk 5 miles. I was just, working my deal up, just driveway all day long. And then at 4 months, I went in for a checkup, and the doctor was surprised and everything like that. And he was like, "Man, you're great." I was like, "Okay, so now what?" He's like, just whatever you want to do, just go back to work and try to, about working out, go in the gym and start putting some stuff on it. And so that's what I did. I went to the gym that day, went home, rode a horse that day. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I never had any kind of rehab. I never did there was never
you work out enough and kind of know how to keep yourself shaped enough.
I've just been fortunate. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's always been a thing that I enjoyed. I was a pudgy kid in high school that didn't care about anything other than having fun. So then whenever I got to college and I started taking care of myself a little bit better, and I started seeing the results in the arena after taking care of myself a little bit better, I was like, oh man, it's just like anything. You find your own way. I just doubled down on taking care of myself. And I was like, man, I'm at an advantage. Body, huh? Yeah. This is so, so I'd always done that for 15 years of doing that. And so I kind of knew what I needed to do to build some strength and some muscle back there. And, I was at 4 months, what they were hoping for at 8 months. And then at 8 months, I was hoping for what they're, full recovery. And then, but I still had a little bit of sharp pain in my back. And then wasn't for I was about to go in surgery and get the stuff out of my back, because I was just at a point to where I was like, well, if I'm not going to ride, might as well get the stuff out of my back. I'm very, if I could have had my way, I wouldn't have got cut on to begin with. I don't like doctors necessarily. And so no offense to the doctor. I don't like any of that stuff. Like, I don't want medicine. I don't want you getting a knife near me, whatever. If I can't buy it over the counter, I don't want it. And, so anyways, and doing that, I talked to the doctor and like, if you're ever going to ride again, you have to do it with this stuff in your back, because this is the safer way, because you just of how everything tore with your muscles and things, like it's never going to be as strong as it is with the stuff in your back.
Got it.
And so that's when I called Mark and I was like, that was on a Friday. I said, I'm going to get on practice Wednesday of next week. And we've got some really nice practice horses. So I was like, I'm going to get my saddle out and get ready. And, yeah, so that's what I did. And then I did it. I was like, oh man, that was really fun. Pretty easy, all things considered. And I'm not hurting at all with my back. My groin, however, like everything else hurt because I had been on bug. Oh my gosh. I was so sore everywhere else but my back, but I didn't feel anything in my back. So that's kind of what gave me the confidence to, a week later, I got on another one. A week later, I got on another one. And so I was just getting on one a week, just kind of building back into it. And then, I wasn't even going to enter anything this winter. But Sterling was like, let's just enter Odessa, see what happens. And I dang sure wasn't going to enter Denver. Let's just enter Denver, see what happens. So I just put my name down, and I was fortunate enough to win second in Odessa and get a check out of Denver and make the semis and feel good. And then, so then you just start keep building slowly. And, but like I said, praying with my wife and being honest with myself. And like, so I told her, I was like, if it hurts, I'll quit tomorrow. But at the same time, if it doesn't, it's going to be really hard for me to not do this if I'm not in pain.
Yeah.
If I know that I can do it, I can be competitive and I'm not in pain. I mean, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Because you still feel like you're kind of in a little bit of prime. Like you're in really good shape.
No.
Well, you're in really good shape.
Don't let that happen on a quote.
You're not. It's not like you're so old where you start feeling things like where it's going down. Like you keep it. You work
feel
out
good.
A lot.
Yeah, I feel great.
Everything feels good. You still love it. You know what I'm saying? You're not. It's not like you're like just hanging on.
No. And that's what I told her. It's like if it gets to the point where I'm not competitive, then absolutely I'll be done. You know what I mean? But as long as I can lift and spur and play the game, then I'm not saying anything about any kind of, I don't have the commitment to try to make the NFR really, unless the stars were to align. You know what I mean? Because there's a handful of rodeos. Your stars align, you can make the NFR without killing yourself.
Got it.
But I made the NFR all those years, like burning down the road. And I don't have the commitment that I had there for the time away from home that I did for all those years. And so now I just really rodeo for the enjoyment of just what it is, which is the riding of a bucking horse.
That's what you were saying the other day. It's like getting to take Cordy and the kids.
Oh man.
Go to rodeo, come back home.
Love it. Yeah. If he doesn't have something the next morning, which during this time of year with baseball and, little kid play days and stuff like that, it gets a little bit tough. But as far as summer is concerned, they're going to go out with me. It's going to be fun. We're not going to hit all the big ones. We're just going to hit the ones that are on the same trail. We're just going to putt along and hit a few and have some fun and see some stuff. Cause that's what, back to the first year of rodeo, and that's what I enjoyed about it. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy seeing a new town and meeting new people, whatever it be, through a committee or something like that, and trying to ride a bucking horse. Like, it's just like the perfect way for me to spend a night. Yeah. So
that's pretty cool. So off topic, just a question for me as just a fan of rodeo, but what the breeding got going on over there in Utah with these Wright brothers? Like, holy smokes, from the dad to everyone involved. Like, what is their, how do they start them? Like, what is it? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, honestly, that's legitimate. Just, these guys are just studs in bronc riding. Is it for obviously the love? Obviously they love it, but then just to be able to, the dad has kind of got a pretty good program going on there for producing them. What do you think that is?
You said off topic, so this is definitely a little bit off topic on the approach, but I don't think if you take a broad look at it, it's nothing that doesn't make sense, because it's kind of how we mentioned earlier. You can expose your kids to everything. Well, those boys, I'm talking about Cody's boys and Cody himself and Jake and Jesse and everybody that's come along, they're all athletic. They can throw a ball. They've got hand-eye coordination. They can do all these different things. You know what I mean? I can remember Stetson posting his football highlights before he was posting NFR highlights. You know what I'm saying? So you've got athletic kids, and then you've got a dad who knows how to ride bucking horses through his experience, because he did it for 20 plus years. You know what I mean? So that's like in the rough stock events, that's what makes it so different than the timed events, is that you take an athletic kid, subject, whatever, you know what I mean, however old they may be, and then you show them the technical side of it. And if they've got the fight, they're going to be successful. Okay. Because you look at Rocker in the bareback riding. What do you take? You take a little guy that can ride the mess out of a wakeboard. He's got he can control his body. Okay. Put him on with a rigging, and he can set his feet. You look at Sonye. He's a baseball player, but he's athletic. He takes care of himself. Okay, teach him how to do it. So it's not the only difference about the and I love my boys in Utah, and they know that, and like we're good. There's just 4 of them, so it seems overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, it's figured out. I was like, nah, Cody had 4 athletic boys, and they took care of themselves, and they did their part, and they've each got that dog in them that makes them want to fight.
Yeah.
And he told them how to fight, and they all ride different. So it's not like it's all,
that is pretty cool.
How they've got different settings on their saddle. Stetson's more looser, you know what I mean? And, back to what we were talking about earlier about the foundation that it takes riding something to get in the saddle bronc riding. It's like he controls his feet so well. That's why he's pull riding, bronc riding, all that stuff. And so, I think the deal about the Utah of it all is just that you kind of just had an athletic family that figured out the technical side of it. It's the same thing as Cody D and Heath back in the day. You just kind of got a raw athleticism type thing. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to teach you the technical side of this event, and then you're going to see success in it. And then what you do with it it's up to you from there. And so, back to raising, kids and stuff, it's like, that's why I think it's so important just to expose them to it, grow a little athlete, and then whatever they want to do, then hone in when they get older, but let them have a well-rounded approach to everything. And then you can see what they want to do. And then that will determine somewhat on size. If you've got a 6'2", 210, don't put him on bucking horses. You know what I mean? Like, put a ball in his hand. You know what I'm saying? Or get him some steers that he can start shoe dogging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you just kind of cultivate it based on that. And so, I mean, I can go to more of the athletes that were college athletes, didn't get into rough stock, and then converted over because, they had that. Yeah. I mean, you think, like I said, of Mitch Pollock, and I was talking to a guy who's making the NFR right now. Brody Wells was another guy. He was in the rig, and I don't want to mess the story up a whole lot, but like Brody was saying, he didn't do much growing up within all that. He'd ride horses and stuff, but it wasn't like he was some rodeo kid. He was just pretty athletic, and he's got an athletic frame. And so it's like, strap it on a bucking horse, and it just translates. And so, but Cody's done a great job leading his family. He doesn't always sound like he might like talk the most, but I do love me some Cody Wright insight. It's like a
wisdom.
It's like a Yoda, if you will.
When he does talk.
It's like a Utah Yoda. Yeah.
When he does talk, it's
a little bit taller. But yeah.
It's there's something behind it.
Oh, for sure. And I think it catch you off guard too, because
Yeah.
it's like, man, that was some insight.
You almost caught it later.
Yeah. Well, you just catch it in a very quiet tone because that's how he speaks. So yeah. So Cody will spit some stuff.
And I like too when you're talking about earlier about like if you're gonna be a bronc rider, like you got to at least somewhat kind of be in it. Like you can't come in off the streets. Like we were talking about riding,
Mhm.
you know, just holding your feet, handling your feet, and things like that. And also what you're talking about is when he started those kids riding,
Mhm.
when they were kind of somewhat developed, right?
Right. Yeah. I can remember talking to Rusty and Ryder, and they were talking about whenever that Cody was going to let Statler get on, but he was like holding him back until he was physically ready to get on. And I think that's so important.
That makes sense.
Well, yeah, because there's just no half speed really. And especially with kids and youth sports and all this youth stuff going on, it's always been going on first off, but even more so now. I think with social media, there's more of a drive because you'll see like, well, this kid's doing this, my kid needs to do this, my kid needs to do that. And it's like, are you sure that they need to be? Because, you know, I can remember growing up and don't regret it, but I don't know if we needed to rodeo as hard as we did when we were that much younger, because I remember how my rodeo and just mentality and everything changed as I became a teenager. And so, you know, it's one of those things that there's a lot of time in there for development and for the kids. And you just kind of start with that foundation, be it hand-eye coordination or balance or strength riding or whatever. Because yeah, saddle bronc riding, it's all these athletes that are converting over, you know what I mean? If you know, like all the rights, I mean, they all rode bulls. If you hear about how great Ryder could ride bulls back in the day, I mean, like there's that element of it. But professional bulls and high school bulls are much different. You know what I'm saying? So like whenever professional came around, Ryder was like, I think I'm going to stick in this saddle. And then obviously that's panned out for him. But, you know, but you've got that foundation of rough stock and just being able to ride a horse, and that translates to that. Whereas sometimes when you've got that just pure athlete that didn't really do much in rodeo, it's like, all right, put his hand in a rigging. He can do that. And so that's where you get the rockers and the cades. And it's like, there's athletes that can focus on some of the technical stuff and grab them and set them.
So what's kind of the plan then for this spring coming up in the summer? Just kind of hitting a few of the rodeos that you like?
Yeah. So, just getting qualifications for next year. I'd like to go to the indoors. The 3 big ones that you got to have your, you know, I could exempt some of them, but Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, you know, you got to kind of go rodeo to go to those next year. So, kind of how I was saying, how if the stars align type deal, you got to be shooting for the stars for them to align. So I got to be entered in those rodeos if they're going to have any kind of potential.
Yeah.
And so,
because that's what a lot of people don't realize is like for a lot of your rodeos, how many bronc riders do they take? So you've got to be in a certain ranking in that year to be able to get into these rodeos. And the team open, we have it a little bit, especially for the winter. So a lot of these guys are rodeoing, trying to make sure that's like you're talking about, getting within, say, the top 50, top 30 to be, you know, all the winter rodeos, because they only limit a certain amount of entries. So that's kind of the plan this year, is to win enough along to where Fort Worth, Houston, probably San Antonio.
Those are the 3.
Those big ones right there.
That I couldn't get into this year. So I'd like to go to those.
Trying to be able to get the qualifications of the American. Was it $2 million next year? Is that right?
Don't get me. I only know the other ones.
I thought I heard the rolls.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where you'd be like, if you get qualified, you're a challenger.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation on that particular deal. I'll say that. So my goals are what my goals are, which is that. So
we'll be over there for the winter.
Yep. Be at those big indoors. Have a fun summer. And just make sure you're ready to go play for next year, and then from there, just see what it can do type deal.
Right on, man. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, Charlie.
It was cool. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
If you're interested in coming to a clinic this year, my 2025 clinic schedule is posted on charlycrawford.training. Go there and see if we are headed to an arena near you. If you're wanting to host a clinic, I have a few dates available. May 30th through June 1st, July 11th through 13th, August 29th through 31st, September 12th through the 14th, September 26th through the 28th. My October is open, and November. All the details and the easy sign-up form can be found on my website under the Clinics tab. If you have any questions, email me at charlycrawford.training@gmail.com.